was not very elaborate or big. It still ran for 4 hours. And 4 hours where very pointed discussions happened on matters which pertain to this COVID affected period. I'll go through one by one. I'll come to some of those issues, larger issues a bit later. First was a decision on reduction in late fee for past returns. Reduction in late fee for past returns. So, as a measure to clean up the pendency in return filing, late fee for non-furnishing of forms which are GSTR 3B. This relates to the period, tax period, July 2017 to January 2020. So this is not non-payment or non-return filing related to COVID period. It is well before it. So for the period beginning from 2017 to January 2020, which is prior to the COVID period, a lot of return filing has been pending, and because the return filing goes in a sequence, unless you finish one, you can't go to the second, unless you finish the second, you can't go to the third. A lot of pipeline issues of getting clogged because they can't do the third before they complete the first. So such things have been pending for a long time. So on that, for all non-furnishing of GSTR 3B forms, there's been a decision taken, and decision is that for those nil liability, meaning for those who have no tax liability but who are just filing their return, there will be zero late fees. There won't be any late fees. I repeat that, for all those who have no tax liability but who have not filed their returns between July of 2017 and till January 2020, there won't be a late fee at all. The next one, the maximum late fee has been capped to 500 per return if there is tax liability. The earlier one is for people who have no liability but who have to file their returns. This one of capping the late fee to 500 rupees to the maximum is for those who have not filed but who have a tax liability. So if you had a tax liability, you will have to pay 500 rupees. And that's the maximum. It's been capped at 500. This reduced rate of late fee would apply for all the GSTR 3Bs. Those GSTR 3B returns which are getting furnished between 1st July 2020 to 30th September 2020. So for those who have a liability, tax liability, and who have not filed their returns between 1st July 2017 till January 2020, now if they choose to do it, they should do it between 1st July 2020 and the 30th September. So July, August and full of September, they have the time to file and pay up that 500 rupees for those who have liability. So this window is being given for this clearing up of the pendency. A second decision is further relief is being offered for small taxpayers for late filing of returns for February, March and April 2020. So this certainly relates to the COVID period. For small taxpayers whose aggregate turnover is up to 5 crores. For the supplies which have been effected in the month of February, March and April of 2020, the rate of interest for late furnishing of return for the said months beyond the specified date, which is 6th July 2020. For some people it is earlier, 4th July. For somebody else it may be 5th July. It was staggered. But the last of that date was 6th July 2020. The reduction is from 18% per annum to 9% per annum, and that also only till September 30th. You have to do it before September 30th. The rate of interest is reduced from 18% to 9%. In other words, for these months, small taxpayers will not be charged any interest till the notified days of relief. For February, March and April, because we have given time till July 6th, which is the staggered date, otherwise they would have done it in their respective months. Up to July, there's nothing that they have to worry about. They don't have to pay the late fee. But thereafter, it will be 9% instead of 18%. And this 9% for these small turnover people, turnover up to only 5 crores people, is only allowed till 30th September. So reduction in the interest rate is valid only up to 30th September. Similarly, another decision which is taken is to provide relief for small taxpayers for subsequent tax periods, which is the one which I just spoke about was for February, March and April. Now I am talking about for the period May, June and July. For that period also we are giving a relief for taxpayers having an aggregate turnover up to 5 crores. This further relief, which is provided by a waiver of late fees and interest if they file the Form 3B for the supplies which have been affected in the months of May, June and July by September 2020. There also the dates will be staggered, but it all will end by 30th September. So first relief was for period February, March, April. The next now that we are fresh giving you is for the period which is May, June, July. That all this will have to be paid up by 30th September. Then the rate of interest came down from 18 to 9 in that case. And here for small relief is again being given to them. There will be no late fees charged. No interest also. The next decision is on time extension in period for seeking revocation of cancellation of registration. I'll read this out so that it's clear. To facilitate taxpayers who could not get their cancelled GST registrations restored in time, an opportunity is being given for filing of application for revocation of cancellation of registration up to 30th September in all cases where registrations have been cancelled till 12/6/2020. These were the major reliefs which are applicable for compliances related to the COVID period. Of course, there were some technical issues related to clauses within the Finance Act which had to be amended in the CGST Act and in the IGST Act. We sought the approval of the House, of the Council. They were taken. There were 4 other things which I'd like to draw your attention. In July, which is on the request of all the ministers, there shall be a meeting to discuss exclusively one agenda point, and that is compensation cess. Compensation which has to be given to the states and If at all it results in some kind of borrowing, how and who is going to pay for it? These are issues which in July all members have requested for a special one agenda council meeting, which we've agreed dates will be fixed subsequently. Today also, like the last time, we had taken up some correction of inversion of duties issue. You know, that's a festering issue for a very long time. Because of inversion in duties, we, one, get less tax revenue, two, end up giving a lot more of refunds because of the accumulated ITCs. Therefore, this issue of correcting inversion has been discussed in almost 3-4 GST Council meetings. This time too, we took it up, and whilst every minister would agree with the logic that existed, that there is certainly an anomaly, inversion is causing problems in terms of revenue generation, inversion is also resulting in terms of unexpected amounts going as refunds, and therefore there is a need to correct. On that there was a almost across the board unanimity. But there was a bit of a discussion in that there was a question of when do we want it to be corrected, meaning when do we want to rationalize the rates to amend the or to correct the inversion related problems. On that, while the principle was agreed by everybody, on this being the time, there was a bit of a discussion, and therefore this decision has been postponed. Extensive discussion on that inversion, correction of inversion matter happened on textiles. Of course, there were other two items, but we didn't take it up because the sense of the House was principle agreed, correction required, but is it this time? Therefore, the other two items did not even come up for discussion. Then, Uttar Pradesh raised the issue of discussion on butties, the bricklins, I think, and also on pan masala related matters. They have been asking for rates for that, for these items. Literally 3 or 4 sessions have been talking about it, but somehow this conclusion had never been arrived at. So the minister from Uttar Pradesh felt strongly about it because he wanted to have revenue for his state and wanted the council to take a quick call on it and make a final decision. So I have assured him that in the next meeting we'll take it up when our regular GST Council meeting would happen. Then the last item which I want to draw your attention was IGST accumulation from 2017-18, which led to an ad hoc decision of sharing accumulated IGST. Prior to that, the formula-based quick division which happens between the sharing which happens between the center and state, prior to that formulation coming into place, which effectively meant that very quickly every time automatically sharing kept happening. Prior to that arrangement, there was this huge accumulation of IGST, which at that time ad hoc decision was taken to split it into 2 halves and share it, as a result of which an anomaly had arisen. That correction had to happen. Now, understanding the need for states to have money in their hands, we corrected one end of it, wherein the states did not have to do any adjustment, but we could release money and give it to them. As a result of which, I could clear the bills for the compensation between December, January, February, which you know has been lying pending. We have cleared it about 3 days ago. The detailing of that, getting into the nitty-gritties of what is that kind of adjustment which has to be technically done. All states were appreciative that in this climate where they are the front-end fighters for COVID, we have decided to sort this matter out, iron out the differences and pay them We have paid them is something which all of them appreciated and recognized. But the nitty-gritty and the ironing out of the process and the procedure, we have arrived at a decision that because there is a GOM on it, headed by Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar, Sri Sushil Modi, we would give all the paperwork to the officials of every state.
Right, there you have it. That's the Finance Minister talking about the GST Council discussing matters related to